October 25th, 1944, Surigao Strait, Philippines. The sea was almost perfectly still. Only the low rumble of engines disturbed the darkness as massive American battleships waited silently across the narrow entrance to Surigao Strait. Their guns were loaded. Their crews stood at battle stations. Radar operators watched glowing green screens, searching for enemy contacts hidden beyond the black horizon. No one spoke louder than necessary. Everyone knew something historic was about to happen. Somewhere to the south, a Japanese fleet was steaming directly toward them. Believing the passage ahead was open, it wasn't. Waiting inside the darkness were 6 American battleships. Old ships. Ships many believed had already fought their final battles years earlier. Ships the younger sailors jokingly called the old ladies. Among them stood one vessel whose very existence seemed impossible. USS West Virginia, a battleship that, only 3 years earlier, had been lying broken beneath the waters of Pearl Harbor. Tonight, she had returned, and this time, she was waiting point 3 years earlier. The story had looked very different. On the quiet Sunday morning of December 7, 1941, Japanese aircraft swept across Pearl Harbor in one of history's most devastating surprise attacks. Bombs exploded across Battleship Row. Torpedoes tore through steel hulls. Within minutes, some of America's most powerful warships were transformed into burning wrecks. USS West Virginia was among the hardest hit. Japanese torpedo bombers struck her repeatedly along the port side. Massive explosions ripped open the hull. Thousands of tons of seawater rushed inside. The great battleship slowly settled onto the muddy bottom of Pearl Harbor. Smoke poured from shattered compartments. Oil spread across the harbor like a dark blanket. For many observers, West Virginia's career had ended forever. But the United States refused to abandon her. Almost immediately after the attack, salvage crews began one of the largest naval recovery operations ever attempted. Divers descended into flooded compartments where visibility was almost zero. Twisted steel blocked passageways. Oil coated everything they touched. The smell of smoke, fuel, and seawater lingered for months. Working in dangerous conditions, engineers patched enormous holes in the hull. Powerful pumps slowly forced the water out. Day after day, week after week, the battleship rose inch by inch from the harbor floor. Eventually, the impossible happened. USS West Virginia floated again. She was towed to dry dock, then sent to the Puget Sound Navy Yard for an extensive reconstruction that would transform her into something entirely new. When West Virginia returned to service in 1944, she looked nothing like the ship that had sunk at Pearl Harbor. Her superstructure had been completely rebuilt. Modern anti-aircraft guns lined her decks. Powerful radar antennas rose above the bridge. Most importantly, she now carried one of the most advanced fire control radar systems in the world. Unlike older optical rangefinders that depended on daylight and clear weather, this new technology could detect enemy ships in complete darkness. It could calculate range, bearing, and firing solutions with extraordinary precision. Ironically, the ship that Japan believed it had destroyed had become even more dangerous than before. Yet, despite her transformation, many naval experts believed battleships no longer mattered. Only 2 years earlier, giant naval guns had ruled the oceans. Battleships represented national pride, power, prestige. No fleet commander wanted to face one. But by 1944, everything had changed. Aircraft carriers had proven they could sink enemy fleets from hundreds of miles away. Naval aviation now dominated the Pacific. Battleships had become floating artillery platforms. Most spent their time supporting amphibious landings. Instead of fighting enemy ships, they bombarded beaches, destroyed bunkers, flattened coastal defenses. Because of this new role, many American battleships carried large numbers of high-explosive shells, ideal for blasting enemy positions on land rather than piercing the thick armor of another battleship. Few expected these aging giants would ever fight each other again. History seemed to have moved on, but history had one final surprise waiting. Far to the south, a Japanese force was moving steadily toward Surigao Strait. Its commander believed speed and determination could break through the American defenses. He had no idea that 6 resurrected battleships were already waiting. Nor did he realize that one of them, USS West Virginia, had been pulled from the mud of Pearl Harbor specifically to fight another day. That day had finally arrived by October 1944. The Japanese Empire was running out of options. The American invasion of Leyte in the Philippines threatened to sever Japan's lifeline to the oil fields of Southeast Asia. If Leyte fell, Japan's navy would struggle to fuel its ships, aircraft, and war machine. The Imperial High Command understood the stakes. They could not allow the American landings to succeed. So they devised one of the most ambitious naval operations of the Second World War. Instead of attacking with a single fleet, they would strike from several directions at once. Powerful task forces would converge on Leyte Gulf, overwhelm the American escort fleets, and destroy the vulnerable troop transports anchored near the beaches. It was a bold plan, but it relied on perfect timing and perfect coordination. Neither would happen. One arm of the operation was entrusted to Vice Admiral Shoji Nishimura. His force was powerful on paper. It included the battleships Yamashiro and Fuso, the heavy cruiser Mogami, and several destroyers. But appearances were deceiving. These ships represented much of what remained of Japan's once mighty battleship fleet. Many had already seen years of hard combat across the Pacific. Fuel was scarce. Air cover was almost non-existent. Experienced sailors had become increasingly difficult to replace. Still, their orders were clear. Sail north through Surigao Strait, break into Leyte Gulf, attack everything in sight, even if it meant sailing directly into overwhelming enemy fire. Nishimura understood the risks. Some historians believe he viewed the mission as nearly suicidal, yet he never hesitated. The Japanese attack depended on several fleets arriving together. Nishimura's southern force was supposed to coordinate with another formation commanded by Vice Admiral Kyohei Shima. Together, they would present a stronger challenge to the American defenders, but communication between the fleets was poor. Schedules slipped, distances grew. By the time Nishimura entered Surigao Strait, Shima's force was still far behind. The carefully planned synchronized attack had already unraveled. Instead of attacking together, Nishimura was sailing almost entirely alone. Unknown to him, an even greater danger waited ahead. Waiting in the darkness was Rear Admiral Jesse B. Oldendorf. Unlike his opponent, Oldendorf wasn't rushing. He wasn't chasing. He was waiting. Hours before the Japanese arrival, he had carefully positioned every ship under his command with one purpose in mind: turn the narrow strait into a killing ground. He understood the geography perfectly. Surigao Strait was long and narrow, squeezed between islands with little room to maneuver. Any fleet attempting to pass through would be forced into a straight line. That made the enemy predictable, and predictable enemies are vulnerable. Oldendorf assembled 6 battleships across the northern exit of the strait. Many younger sailors jokingly refer to them as the Old Ladies. USS West Virginia, USS Maryland, USS Mississippi, USS Tennessee, USS California, USS Pennsylvania. 5 of these ships had survived the attack on Pearl Harbor. Some had sunk, others had burned. All had been repaired and returned to war. Now they formed a solid wall of steel stretching across the mouth of the strait. For many veterans serving aboard them, this battle felt deeply personal. 3 years earlier, Japan had tried to erase these ships forever. Now those same ships were waiting for revenge. Oldendorf intended to use one of the oldest naval tactics ever devised. It was known simply as crossing the T. Imagine 2 fleets. One advances in a straight line. The other forms a line across its path. The advancing fleet can fire only its forward guns, but the fleet crossing its path can unleash every broadside gun at once. The result is devastating. Maximum firepower against a limited response. It was a tactic taught to generations of naval officers. But by 1944, few believed another opportunity to use it would ever appear. Oldendorf recognized the chance immediately, and he intended to make it count. The battleships were not alone. Farther south, dozens of small PT boats waited in the darkness. Compared to the giant battleships, these wooden craft looked insignificant. They carried only a handful of men, but they possessed one dangerous weapon: torpedoes. As Japanese ships entered the strait, PT boats raced through the darkness, reporting enemy positions by radio and launching surprise attacks whenever opportunities appeared. Most of their torpedoes missed, yet they accomplished something equally important. They forced the Japanese commanders to maneuver. They disrupted formations. They created confusion. And every minute of delay brought Nishimura closer to Oldendorf's waiting guns. Behind the PT boats waited another deadly layer: American destroyers. Hidden along both sides of the strait, they remained silent as Japanese ships advanced closer. Then, they attacked. Dozens of torpedoes streaked through the water. Explosions shattered the night. Columns of seawater erupted around the Japanese formation. The aging battleship Fuso absorbed devastating hits. Accounts differ on the exact sequence of events, but the damage proved catastrophic. Fires spread rapidly. Her formation broke apart, and she was ultimately lost during the battle. Several destroyers were also hit or sunk. The carefully organized Japanese column began to unravel. Yet Admiral Nishimura refused to turn back. His flagship Yamashiro continued pushing north, straight toward the American battle line, straight toward USS West Virginia as Yamashiro pressed deeper into Surigao Strait. Her crew still could not see the force waiting ahead. The darkness concealed the greatest concentration of American naval firepower in the area. Radar screens aboard USS West Virginia were already tracking every movement, range, bearing, speed. The Americans knew exactly where the enemy was. The Japanese did not even know they had been detected. The trap was complete. Within minutes, West Virginia's massive 16-inch guns would speak, and the final battleship duel in history would begin. The Japanese ships continued advancing to the black waters of Surigao Strait. From the bridge of Yamashiro, the sea appeared empty. No flashes, no silhouettes, no sign of an American battle line. To Admiral Shoji Nishimura, it seemed the hardest part of the journey was already behind him. But aboard USS West Virginia, the Americans were seeing an entirely different picture. Deep inside the ship's combat information center, sailors watched glowing green radar screens. Every sweep of the antenna painted the enemy's position with remarkable accuracy. Distance, speed, heading. The Americans no longer had to rely on moonlight or lookouts with binoculars. Technology had changed naval warfare forever. West Virginia's Mark 8 fire control radar tracked the Japanese flagship more than 12 miles away, calculating firing solutions that would have been impossible only a few years earlier. For the first time in history, a battleship could fight an enemy it couldn't even see. Open fire. Shortly after 3:50 a.m., the waiting ended. The order echoed across West Virginia. Commence firing. Seconds later, the silence of the Pacific shattered. One by one, the battleship's 8 massive 16-inch guns erupted with blinding flashes. The concussion shook the entire ship. Towering flames burst from the gun barrels. Each shell weighed over 2,700 pounds, racing toward the enemy at tremendous speed. The blasts were so powerful that crew members felt the shock waves through steel decks beneath their feet. For a brief moment, the darkness disappeared. The night turned into daylight. Then, everything became black again. Except now, enormous shells were already hurtling toward the Japanese fleet. Within moments, the rest of Oldendorf's battle line joined in. USS Tennessee, USS California, USS Maryland. Heavy cruisers positioned nearby added their own guns to the barrage. The narrow waters of Surigao Strait became an inferno. Shell after shell crossed the darkness. Columns of water erupted around Yamashiro. Steel fragments rained across her decks. Every few seconds, another explosion ripped through the Japanese formation. The carefully prepared American ambush had become exactly what Oldendorf intended, a wall of fire. The classic naval tactic known as crossing the T was unfolding perfectly. The Japanese could answer only with the guns facing forward. The Americans unleashed nearly every heavy gun they possessed. It was an overwhelming imbalance of firepower. Aboard Yamashiro, confusion quickly turned into disaster. Shells smashed into the aging battleship. Explosions tore through her upper decks. Communication lines were severed. Gun crews struggled to return fire as smoke and flames spread to the ship. Crewmen rushed to contain flooding. Medics treated the wounded wherever space could be found. Yet every minute brought another devastating hit. The Japanese sailors fought with extraordinary determination. Despite overwhelming odds, they continued loading guns, carrying ammunition, and attempting to keep their ship alive. But courage alone could not overcome radar-directed fire. Every attempt to maneuver only made Yamashiro an easier target. For decades, battleship warfare had depended on eyesight, rangefinders, signal flags, searchlights, experienced spotters. Surigao Strait proved that era was over. While Japanese crews searched the darkness for targets they could barely identify, American radar operators calmly tracked every movement. Corrections were transmitted almost instantly. Each salvo became more accurate than the last. West Virginia's modern radar gave the Americans a decisive advantage. It wasn't simply bigger guns that won the battle. It was information. Whoever could see first could strike first. And whoever struck first often decided the outcome before the enemy even understood what was happening. As the barrage intensified, Admiral Shoji Nishimura remained aboard his flagship. Despite catastrophic damage, he did not order retreat. The formation had already collapsed. Several escorting destroyers had been sunk or crippled. Fuso was gone. The remaining ships were scattered across the strait. Still, Yamashiro pressed forward. It was a decision that reflected the Imperial Japanese Navy's deeply rooted doctrine of pressing the attack, even under desperate circumstances. But there would be no breakthrough. American shells continued striking the battleship from multiple directions. The ship slowed. Then she began to list. The end was approaching. Approximately 4:19 a.m. The battle reached its climax. After enduring relentless bombardment and torpedo damage, Yamashiro finally succumbed. The battered battleship rolled heavily. Water poured through shattered compartments. One final tilt, then the ship disappeared beneath the surface of Surigao Strait. With her went Admiral Nishimura and the vast majority of her crew. Only a small number of sailors survived the sinking. For the Imperial Japanese Navy, it was a devastating loss. For the American battle line, the greatest threat in the strait had been eliminated. The trap had worked exactly as planned. The last ships flee. The surviving Japanese cruiser Mogami and a handful of destroyers attempted to escape the destruction. Some were already badly damaged. Others struggled through smoke and burning wreckage. Vice Admiral Kyohei Shima's force, arriving too late to support Nishimura, encountered the chaos and withdrew rather than continue into the American battle line. The coordinated Japanese attack had completely fallen apart. What had begun as an ambitious offensive had ended in disaster. But one final moment remained, a single salvo that would quietly close an entire chapter of naval history.